too. Can't rule out some showers here, but across the large majority of England and Wales, it should be a largely dry and fine start to the day. And that's pretty much the setup through the course of Thursday. We'll see a mix of cloud, some brighter spells, still the occasional shower across the far north of England, and a little bit breezy at times too across the very far southeast. But by the afternoon, some sunshine poking through that cloud. And once again, it's western areas that sees the best of the temperatures, highs of around 19 degrees, but only just about clipping into the mid-teens across the east. For Friday, it's likely we'll see some mist and fog to start. Once again, a chilly start to the day, but brightening up nicely through the course of the day, seeing plenty of sunshine, just some thicker clouds starting to creep into the northwest. Once again, this may produce the odd light shower, but otherwise it should be largely dry and fine, and staying that way into the weekend, temperatures creeping up into the mid-20s by the time we reach Sunday. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could be the next big winner on the road in this brand new Al Nag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. Imagine the fun you could have in this luxurious home from home worth over £67,000. We'll also give you £5,000 in tax-free cash to make your next getaway a great one. And it could be all yours. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight. Revealed people smugglers slash their prices to get thousands into Britain, and India and Pakistan go to war, but will it spill out onto the streets of Britain? Find out what happened when I went to a protest outside the Indian High Commission in London earlier. Also,
Vance Britannia. Long live the cause of freedom. God save the King.
You won't believe this, but Winston Churchill's legacy money has been spent on pro-mass migration propaganda and... A group of Tory MPs, yes, Tory MPs, call for Palestine to be recognised as a state. I mean, that's one way to respond to getting battered at the local elections. Plus,
I cannot love Madeline more than I love her. You know, I would never have taken a risk. It was something that wasn't even a decision. That's how safe it felt.
Shocking new evidence in the Maddie McCann case. And...
So what are you saying about that pattern of briefing then? Sexist? Misogynistic? What's going on?
All of the above.
Does Keir Starmer have a woman problem? Their youngest councillor was abused for saying that there should be cameras in the back of minicabs. On my panel tonight, we have got the director of the Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, senior reporter at Guido Fawkes, Ellie Wheatley, and the political commentator, Eve McQuillan. Oh, and can you tell me, please, what you think is wrong with this?
Put your hands up in the air. This is the rhythm of the night.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Are we about to get a foreign war on the streets of Britain? Next.
Patrick, thank you. The top stories. The wait for a new pope goes on after black smoke rose from the Sistine Chapel following the first secret vote as the conclave began. A group of 133 cardinal electors began their behind-closed-doors meeting this afternoon. It's expected voting will resume tomorrow, and up to 4 rounds of voting can take place each day, 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. A new pope requires a 2/3 majority in the voting, and white smoke will be emitted from the chimney to confirm a pontiff has been chosen. Islamabad has vowed revenge after dozens were killed in Indian missile strikes last night. Pakistan described the attacks as an act of war and responded with shelling on the Indian side of the line of control. India says it launched the strikes last night on 9 sites in Pakistan, and Pakistan administered Kashmir. Pakistan, though, says 6 locations were attacked, and Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif says 5 Indian jets were downed. India hasn't confirmed that. At least 26 people have been killed and 46 injured by airstrikes and firing along the line of control. The Indian Defence Ministry said it targeted terrorist infrastructure, but Pakistan's Defence Minister said all areas hit were civilian places, not militant camps. The UK Foreign Office has updated travel advice, urging against all travel to parts of India and Pakistan. Criminals in England and Wales who refuse to attend their sentencing hearings could soon face up to 2 extra years in prison under a new bill. According to victims' families, the proposed bill would give judges greater powers to punish those who are absent, ensuring offenders can no longer opt out of justice. Supporters of the bill say it marks a significant step towards greater accountability in the justice system. In other news, Liam Payne left behind a fortune worth £24.3 million and died without a will, court documents show. The singer, who was just 31 years old, died in October last year after falling from a hotel balcony in Argentina. Documents show Cheryl, his former partner and mother of his son Bear, is an administrator for his estate. This means she'll be legally responsible for his money, property and possessions. And this afternoon, the King and Queen hosted the first garden party of the year at Buckingham Palace. Their Majesties, joined by members of the royal family, met guests who have travelled from across the country to attend. Guests are nominated by charities and organisations with royal links and are invited as a thank you for their public service. And those are the latest headlines for now. More from me in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening. India and Pakistan are on the brink of war. Today, we got wind of a pro-Pakistan demonstration outside the Indian High Commission in London. Now, there are huge concerns that a war over there might lead to a war on the streets of Britain. So I went down to have a little look for myself. It's just gone 5:30 here in central London, and we are at the back of the Indian High Commission. What you'll be able to see here is police vans, police vans, police vans, police vans, everywhere as far as the eye can see, including down that road there and outside of the Indian High Commission. Why? Well, we are expecting, in a few minutes' time anyway, many protesters, pro-Pakistan protesters, to turn up and voice their displeasure at the military assault by India last night. So, let's see how this plays out. So I'm now outside the front of the Indian High Commission. The police, as you can see, are everywhere, dotted around, armed police on the front door. They've made a decision, as it currently stands, to not block this road off, so people can still come and go. Now, only time will tell as to whether or not that's a wise decision, but the Indians have just unveiled a whopping great big Indian flag and draped it off the roof and dangled it down. So they're certainly ready, aren't they? Eventually, some pro-Pakistan protesters actually turned up.
Peace! We want peace! We want peace! We want peace!
As you can hear, more protesters have been gathering, and some of the chants have been, we want peace, say no to war, India, terrorism, Modi is a terrorist, but you can hear now, we want peace. Maybe I could just try and see if I can speak to the person who's doing most of the shouting. So you think that if there is a war between India and Pakistan, that's going to be very bad here?
Exactly.
What could happen, though, do you think?
Because it's a hate speech, hate each other, because the local council is full of the Pakistan and Indian. We need peace in Asia and we need peace in Britain as well. If we don't bring to the closer in peace and love, it would be very, very difficult for UK politics.
Yeah, I mean, look, hey, I want to make it very clear, he was obsessed with the idea of peace. The point that he made there was that we have Indian British people and Pakistani British people on the same local councils, for example, in quite a few areas, and that he's worried that that might kick off. One woman felt as though Keir Starmer's trade deal announcement yesterday with the Indian leader Modi was provocative to the Pakistani community.
Modi, their Indians' leadership, with our Premiership, Keir Starmer, shook hands on a business deal of 40. What do you think of this trade deal? Did you find that trade deal quite provocative? So as I've spoken to the police officers now, for me it is, because the timing, the deal is not going to kick in till 2 years. So why did you need to announce it yesterday? And right in the middle of the night, the bombs happen. For me, the questions are, how dare you? Where did you get the strength to do that?
OK, so in 2022 and again last year, there were violent clashes between Hindus and Muslims in Leicester. Again, people seem to think that Leicester could be a potential flashpoint, but they seem to blame the former British Indian Prime Minister Rishi Sunak for that.
Majority of my friends are all Indians, OK? We are living in England in harmony and peace. We have no differences. Believe me, Indian and Pakistani will live in harmony. And I don't think that is going to create any problem. Only problem is going to create in Leicester, because the majority of the people are in Leicester are people who've been given visa to come to UK by Rishi Sunak.
But one man who, by the way, I'd like to give a special shout out to, because he's an avid GBNews viewer, has a message for the Indian and Pakistani communities in Britain, urging everyone to just stay calm.
Important for the people of Pakistan and Indians to stay calm, because they're all working class people. There is no need to cause conflict here. We are in this country, we are working class people, now we don't have to do this. This international community must play a role. If this carries on like this, it's going to end up a disaster.
So, the latest news this evening is Pakistan has vowed to make India pay for their missile strikes. So, look, the problem isn't going away, is it? It's peaceful for now. Let's hope it stays that way. Let's get the thoughts of my panel. We have the Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood. We, of course, have the senior reporter at Guido Fawkes, Ellie Wheatley, and the political commentator, Eve McQuillan. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Mark, I'll start with you. How worried are you about the potential for sectarian violence and issues on the streets of Britain going forward?
I'm a lot more worried about the potential for nuclear war between India and Pakistan. I mean, you've got to tell us, Patrick, be honest, were there more coppers outside the Indian High Commission than there were protesters?
Absolutely,
right? So at this stage, it was the lion that didn't roar, right? And it looked incredibly peaceful. I mean, even the protesters didn't really seem up for it. I mean, sort of, we want peace, if they could be bothered to chant it, right? So, look, of course there will be protests here around embassies and high commissions if anything sparks off anywhere in the world. You know, people in Britain have very strong views about Israel and Gaza, for example. As long as it is retained as, you know, protests outside embassies and high commissions, I'm happy. We've got to keep a watch on Leicester, obviously, and areas in which there's a high Indian and Pakistani community. But I think the real problem here is peace in the Indian subcontinent, not violence on our streets.
OK, fair enough. And it was quite interesting to speak to people there, because you were saying, getting chants there of, we want peace, we want peace. And I'd asked them a couple of questions about, like, OK, well, the latest is that Pakistan said there's going to be massive retaliation. Oh, yeah, they'd be absolutely justified to do that. They'd be if they decide that they want massive retaliation, then they can level India. So, look, I am concerned. We've seen it before. I mean, again, I will stress that was a very peaceful demonstration there. But the message I was getting there from quite a few of those people is it might be quite peaceful there, but they're worried about some of the more provincial parts of the UK. They are worried about your kind of rush homes in Manchester, you know, those parts of Blackburn, Leicester's, for example.
Yeah, totally. I mean, as you were saying, back in 2022, there were riots that were sparked off by a cricket match, I think it was, but the underlying root cause of this is control over Kashmir. Now, the UK's position is that we should not provide a solution to this. And Starmer will be facing a lot of pressure from within his party over this, and he will be at pains to call for calm and unity within his party, but he must lead by example. I mean, even today in the Commons, a Labour MP, Tahir Ali, was saying that Kashmir has never been part of India, it never will be, so that can remain a distant dream of Modi. Now, if Starmer can't, you know, get a grip within his own party on this, then that might, you know, this sort of rhetoric really fuels tension and division within our streets.
Keir Starmer's got a problem with this, hasn't he not? I mean, he's got MPs there, like Tahir Ali, who are, I mean, utterly obsessed with anything other than what's going on in Birmingham. I mean, if it's not Gaza, it's the Mirpur airport, isn't it, I suppose? How does Starmer get a hold of his party, do you think, and deal with this if tensions in India and Pakistan continue?
I think Starmer has to be very firm about this de-escalatory line. I absolutely agree with you, Mark, about the risk of nuclear war. Two nuclear powers, we cannot be messing around with this, and I think he will be firm about that. I think what we need to see on a local level is local leadership, good local civic leadership, bringing communities together so it stays peaceful. People have an absolute right to express their views in a democratic society, and that's exactly what the people in the video were doing. It stays like that, we're fine.
Yeah, no, I agree. I actually thought there was a chap towards the end there who I thought made a very, very good point, which is that in large parts of Britain where you have Indian and Pakistani communities living side by side, they are often kind of quote-unquote working-class communities. They're all... And he basically said to me off camera, he's like, look, I'm a member of the working class. I haven't got time for some kind of race war on the streets, right? I want to go and run my business. I want to work hard. I want to, you know, support my family. And his Indian friends want to do that as well. So I do hope that shines through.
Yeah, I mean, look, this major generalisation alert. Overwhelmingly, I actually think the Indian community has integrated brilliantly in the UK. The Pakistani community, less so. As I say, massive generalisation alert. You know, my hope is that if this chap you were speaking to, was he the avid GBNews viewer?
Yeah, he was.
Well, that's why he's talking so much common sense, then, Patrick. Let's hope both communities actually celebrate being British and getting down to some hard work and not punching each other in the face and, you know, earning a fair buck. Let's hope that they do that and celebrate, you know, being in Leicester, Blackburn, whatever, and getting on with their lives. That might bring the community together rather than tearing it apart. I'm holding on to that small flickering hope, at least.
Yeah, I mean, there was the other aspect, as the gentleman there quite rightly raised, which is in positions of local power right across the country, often local councils can be made up of, you know, a sizable Indian population and a sizable Pakistani population as well. So you might end up seeing kind of turf wars there locally, metaphorically speaking, of course. You know, there are big aspects. I mean, he even mentioned at one point, the England cricket team to me, where he said at some point in the England cricket team you have kind of British Hindus, and at some point you have British Muslims. And I thought, gosh, you know, they really do feel the divisions, the Indians and Pakistani community in Britain. Like, they really do feel it, don't they? And, you know, I hope we don't going forward on it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with Mark, actually. I think this is almost an opportunity for the government and local community and religious leaders to go, listen, the one thing that does unite us is that we are British citizens. You know, we are British Indians and British Hindus. And so we shouldn't be fighting some proxy war based on a conflict abroad. And if we get that message across, that that's what unites all of us in this country, then hopefully this will remain.
And the interesting thing there, I think, for local councils, and we say this a lot about the government, and you raised it potentially about some Labour politicians, Patrick, stick to your lane. Yeah. If we start getting local councils taking a position on Kashmir rather than on potholes or refuse collection, then things could get out of control. If we can only make sure our politicians stick to their lane, things will be a lot more peaceful.
The other uncomfortable truth about this is, as was raised with me several times today as well, was that India basically backs Israel and Pakistan essentially backs Palestine. And that is just below the surface as well. And that is a very real issue. It's another issue that they were all raising to me. I mean, how big a problem do you think that's going to be?
So I don't think that is going to be a problem above and beyond what it already is, if I'm honest. I think that most people in this country who have a strong position on that conflict, whether they're personally impacted or not, are able to express that democratically, fairly. And where we have problems, where we have people breaking the law, we have a police service that does something about that. That's what we need to see. We need to see proper democratic discussion, community leaders engaged, talking about calm with their communities, and then where there are incidents, they need to be dealt with quickly and properly, good evidence by the police and a proper process of law.
Yeah, and again, I will say I've been very critical at times, and I stand by it, of the police in various different protest situations. I appreciate that was an incredibly small protest today. However, I thought they did a wonderful job. There were certainly a lot of them.
Overmanned.
Well, massively overmanned. It got to a point where I think some of the police started to look a bit bored. But I think they had every right to be there, to be fair. So, so there we go. And just very quickly as well, the chap at the end there was a GB News viewer. It was interesting because he came over, he said hello, watches GB News all the time, and took a little selfie. And then after we'd done the interview, one of the kind of minders of the pro-Pakistani group came over and was like, you shouldn't be talking to him, he's from GB News. And he just went, no, I watch his show. There's still plenty of time to grab your chance to win our biggest ever prize today. It's a whopping great big motorhome worth £67,000, including £5,000 in tax-free cash. Here's how you can be in it to win it.
Don't miss out on a prize package worth over £72,000. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. Plus a further £5,000 in tax-free cash will make sure your next adventure makes memories to last a lifetime. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
OK, well, coming up.
So what are you saying about that pattern of briefing then? Sexist? Misogynistic? What's going on?
All of the above.
Oh, remarkably, Sir Keir Starmer has been accused of sexism, and a Labour councillor has been hounded out of the party after being branded a racist for saying that there should be cameras in the back of minicabs, which actually is more like common sense, I think. So, does Keir Starmer have a woman and a race problem? I'll find out in just a few minutes, but first,
Bounce Britannia. Long live the cause of freedom. God save the King.
Winston Churchill's legacy money has been spent on pro-mass migration propaganda. Is this really what our greatest wartime leader would have wanted? That's next.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that.
When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new Royal Newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. So coming up, does the Prime Minister have a woman problem? But first, would Winston Churchill want his financial legacy spent on a migration museum? It's time now for the head-to-head. Yes, that's right. Winston Churchill's financial legacy has been used to spread pro-immigration messaging. So after the wartime leader's death in 1965, the Churchill Fellowship was set up with public donations. The fund has recently been used to expand the work of the Migration Museum. The museum supports a vision of a world where everyone is free to move, and has plans to expand to schools and even run training sessions for civil servants on migration history and learning and DEI programmes. Well, critics have branded the museum a taxpayer-funded propaganda outfit. The Churchill Fellowship has donated more than 40 grand to this museum. That is, of course, despite Winston Churchill's warning in 1954 that immigration could create racial tensions within the UK. So tonight I'm asking, would Winston Churchill want his financial legacy spent on an immigration museum? Well, going head-to-head on this now, political advisor Pablo Hanna and historian and broadcaster David Oldroyd-Bolt. Thank you very much. David, I'll start with you. Is this actually really offensive to Winston Churchill?
I don't think it's offensive. I think it's historically illiterate. Churchill was, aside from being the greatest statesman of the 20th century, one of the finest historians of the 20th century. And any museum that looks at the history of migration in Britain should do so honestly, rather than trying to concoct this idea that Britain is a nation of immigrants. It is not. The population of Britain was remarkably steady from the arrival in the 5th and 6th centuries of the Anglos, the Jutes and the Saxons until the early 21st century. We were one of the most stable nations in history in the makeup of our population and in its demographics. So if there were to be a migration museum that wanted to tell the true story of migration to Britain until the explosion under Tony Blair, guided by Barbara Roche, who is the head of the Migration Museum, then I think Winston Churchill would have been delighted by that as a man who believed in history and believed in the power of education. But for this, as I say, concocted narrative, one that bears very little relation to true history, and that seems to be, as was reported in the head of the segment, a propagandistic exercise using not only the Churchill Fellowship money, but £1.3 million of Arts Council money to expand what is, by the museum's own admission, a little visited museum in a car park in Lewisham to a prime site in the centre of the City of London, and then to every school in the country is, I think, wrong.
I'll come back to you. Paolo, I mean, look, don't you think that Winston Churchill would be turning in his grave if he thought that his legacy money was being used to teach civil servants about open borders and DEI programmes and then indoctrinate kids at school with it? I mean, by the way, those are probably still the same group of civil servants and school kids that think he was the most evil man in history.
I think Churchill's actions speak louder than sort of cherry-picked quotes. He blocked Britain's first anti-immigration law and he opened our arms to desperate refugees. He saw newcomers as moral allies and strategic assets. He was actually what we need now, a migration pragmatist, not a sort of hardline restrictionist reactionary. And I think probably most people, we would agree that Churchill is probably our greatest ever prime minister, precisely because he knew, understood and encouraged what makes our country the greatest in the world, and that is its diversity, its tolerance and its compassion. And at the root of that, it's who we are. It's why we were right to open our doors to those fleeing Nazi Germany in 1939, and it's why we're right to open our doors fleeing Putin's Russia today. Churchill knew that then, and real patriots know that now. That's fundamentally what our country is. It is a nation of immigrants and migrants. We are diverse and tolerant. It's what makes us who we are and why we're so great.
OK, David, look, I wonder whether or not this is exactly why the charity sector is such a scam, really. You can get a job at the Churchill Fellowship, which most people would think would make you, you know, a fan of Winston Churchill, maybe someone who's a true patriotic Brit, all of this stuff. And actually, it looks like you've been completely and utterly infested by DEI stuff.
I think it's yet another instance of the third sector mugging off the public who pay their bills and essentially saying we don't care what you think, we don't care whether this is in concordance with the original foundational ethos of the charity, in this instance, to promote the work and the study of Churchill and his legacy. They don't care, they are unaccountable, and they will continue to push these highly politicised, historically incorrect ideas until they are brought under control, which means either being held to account on the basis of their foundation and where they are found to have transgressed that to be penalised financially or legally, or simply to be defunded from any public funding whatsoever. And I would like to know whether the Churchill Fellowship is conceived to be a private or a public body, and if so, how it's held to account. And as Tony Benn used to ask, who put you there and how do we get rid of you?
OK, look, we are in the middle of VE week, really, the way that it's going here. And I can't help but wonder, Pablo, what Winston Churchill would have made, seriously, of the fact that the south coast of England is essentially being invaded as we speak. And this particular organisation that bears his name now apparently supports a vision of a world where everyone is free to move. I am not convinced that Winston Churchill would have allowed the invasion of our south coast from the Channel migrants, would he?
Churchill was the first person to bring up the idea of a United States of Europe. He called for the creation of the Council of Europe to integrate further.
What's that got to do with Eritreans coming across the Channel?
But he supported the sort of globalization and supporting our neighbors, bringing people in if they needed refuge. He was the first person, the greatest prime minister we had, to bring people into our country to say, if you want to come to our country, contribute here. You can seek refuge here if you're being persecuted in your country. That's what he did. That was one of his greatest legacies. That he, during the war, he set a precedent in our country that people looked to the UK and they thought, if I'm struggling, if I'm in a country that's under war, the UK will give me a home as long as I contribute and integrate. That's what people did, and it has worked. The UK is a perfect example of where integration has worked, and it has benefited us enormously.
It's a perfect example of where integration has worked, has it? Where are you at the moment?
I'm in London.
Oh, are you? So last time I spoke to you, I thought you were in America. I thought it worked so perfectly, you decided to leg it off across the Atlantic. Anyway, look, thank you very much, both of you. We can obviously carry this on, but it's tremendous to have you both on. You take care. All right. I must say, I'm resolutely unconvinced that Winston Churchill would have been pro-open borders. But who do you agree with? Question, would Churchill want his legacy money spent on pro-immigration messaging? Mick, on your say, says, I do wonder what Churchill would say if he could see what we've done to this country. Well, sadly, I am inclined to agree with you there. Janet says, I very much doubt it. He would probably prefer it to go to veterans. Again, yes, I do think Pablo did a good job putting the other side up there, but I'm not really sure Winston Churchill would have agreed with him. Anyway, coming up... Just days after their local election thrashing, a group of Tory MPs have called on the Prime Minister to recognise Palestine as a state. So if that's their response to getting a good kicking at the local elections, is the party doomed? But first... Big expose for you at 10 p.m. though. People smugglers slash their prices to get thousands into Britain. I'll reveal all at 10 p.m.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Don't worry about it.
It'll spoil our holiday.
Relax, we're totally covered.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
An unsettled spell across parts of Europe, particularly across the Alps and southeastern Europe, where they're going to experience heavy showers and thunderstorms over the next few days. An area of low pressure could drag in some showers later across Madeira and Tenerife. Plenty of showers across Portugal and Spain, but it's really across the Alps, southeastern parts of Europe, where these showers are going to be particularly heavy and possibly thundery. Now, it should be largely dry across Greece and largely dry for all from Sunday, with temperatures in the low 20s, so feeling pleasant in the sunshine.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Over the coming days, high pressure clings on, leaving lots of pleasant weather, feeling warm in the sunshine. That's away from eastern coasts, though, always a bit cooler here. That's all thanks to high pressure dragging in a northeasterly flow across these areas, so bringing more of a breeze, more cloud, making things feel a little bit chillier. Always warmest in the west. And as we head through this evening, we're once again going to see more cloud drifting into the east. This cloud thick enough to produce some showers at times, but on the whole, across much of the country, it should remain largely dry. Plenty of clear skies across Scotland and Northern Ireland, so even a touch of frost by the time we reach the morning. So it is going to be a chilly start as we head into Thursday morning. Largely dry, though, across Scotland, though plenty of cloud across the very far north. This could be thick enough to produce some showers, and it may just be a little bit breezy across northeastern coasts. But across Northern Ireland, once again, largely dry and bright, but still a few showers feeding into northeast England. Elsewhere across the southeast too, can't rule out some showers here, but across the large majority of England and Wales, it should be a largely dry and fine start to the day. And that's pretty much the setup through the course of Thursday. We'll see a mix of cloud, some brighter spells, still the occasional shower across the far north of England, and a little bit breezy at times too across the very far southeast. But by the afternoon, some sunshine poking through that cloud. And once again, it's western areas that sees the best of the temperatures, highs of around 19 degrees, but only just about clipping into the mid-teens across the east. For Friday, it's likely we'll see some mist and fog to start. Once again, a chilly start to the day, but brightening up nicely through the course of the day, seeing plenty of sunshine, just some thicker clouds starting to creep into the northwest. Once again, this may produce the odd light shower, but otherwise it should be largely dry and fine, and staying that way into the weekend, temperatures creeping up into the mid-20s by the time we reach Sunday. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. So, coming up, a group of Tory MPs have responded to getting a complete kicking at the local elections by thinking it's a great idea to call for Palestine to be recognised as a state. What planet are they on? But first, though, Labour's youngest councillor has been hounded out of the party and smeared as a racist simply for calling for CCTV cameras to be installed in minicabs. So Peterborough councillor Daisy Blakemore-Creedon claims that she was falsely accused of racism after raising concerns about safety of both passengers and drivers in the city's council-licensed minicabs, many of whom are operated by Asian men. She says that she was forced to quit the party after being subject to a campaign of anti-Semitic abuse and intimidation. Speaking to The Telegraph, she said, "These accusations are completely unfounded and deeply hurtful. I've also raised a formal complaint regarding these matters, which has now been delayed twice, reportedly due to concerns about the political impact on the party rather than a focus on justice or resolution." Well, I'm very pleased to be joined now by the Deputy Mayor of Peterborough and the leader of the Conservative group, Councillor Wayne Fitzgerald. Thank you very, very much. So Labour were obviously highlighting, oh, great, we've got this young lady now who is a councillor. We're just going to have to wait a second to get Wayne back. But, I mean, do you not think that this is actually quite laughable, really, when you think about what's going on here? You've got the kind of person that Labour long for. You know, here's a young girl who wants to stand for Labour. She's got elected. Well done. She's put on a pedestal. And then the second she deviates from the party line by saying, daring to say, look, maybe we should put cameras in the back of minicabs to stop sexual assaults. Now, despite the fact that we know that there is an issue here, because we've seen it in Rochdale, Rotherham, Keighley, you name it, throw a dart at the map of England, and there has unfortunately been a problem with taxi drivers, some of them, anyway, abusing young girls, OK? So we all know it's a problem, but she says it, and then all of a sudden she's perceived as a racist, she's abused, she's persona non grata, and she's turfed out of the party. But I just wonder if the problem runs deeper than this with Labour, because, you know, the second that you decide that you want to deviate from that line, then you must be a racist. But does Keir Starmer and the Labour Party also have a woman problem? Last night, Louise Haigh, who was, of course, sacked as former Transport Minister, went on Newsnight and, frankly, released some absolute bombshells. And I'm hoping that we might be able to play you that Louise Haigh clip now from Newsnight last night.
I'm just really fed up of opening the papers and reading briefing against my female former colleague.
So what are you saying about that pattern of briefing then? Sexist, misogynistic? What's going on?
All of the above. I think there is a real problem where there are people that, as I say, that are more interested in that kind of politics than they are in rolling their sleeves up and getting with the job of running the country. That is not.
So, trouble at mill for the Labour Party. Let's deal with first things first. The Labour councillor, former Labour councillor in Peterborough, who dared to say that she wanted cameras in the back of minicabs to stop violent sexual assaults of girls, but also protect the safety of minicab drivers. She says, Mark, hounded by Labour, bullied by Labour, smeared as a racist, received anti-Semitic abuse, and now she's persona non grata.
It's unbelievable. I can't get my head around this story. It seems to me that you can have a legitimate discussion about whether CCTV should be in cabs or not, right? And I can see the security basis. We were actually just discussing off camera whether it might actually help the taxi driver to prove that they've done nothing wrong, right? Yes. So you can argue about that. What is absolutely insane is to believe that this has anything to do with race. This is entirely to do with security.
Well, I think
so the fact that this has been thrown in is another element of identity sectarian politics, which is just poisoning the well of any rational discussion in Britain.
Well, I think the vast majority of minicab drivers are Asian men, right, which was why she got such fury from her Labour colleagues. And what's really shocking about this is obviously we've heard the racism card being pulled to actually to cover up various crimes, particularly in the rape gang scandal. But she complained to Labour HQ and the party, and she claims that they've done nothing. And she also claims to have faced anti-Semitic abuse because her mother is Jewish. And again, she claims that Labour has done nothing. So it's more terrible optics for Starmer and his party.
What do you make of this, Eva? I mean, you are obviously both a woman and in Labour. So what do you make of this particular incident here?
So, I mean, with regards to this particular incident, her concerns about security in taxis, you know, fair enough. And in fact, the trade unions that represent taxi drivers advise taxi drivers to get CCTV camera because it will protect them in the case of, you know, a drunk nutter, frankly, going for the taxi driver, which is also a risk. I don't know the details about her specific case, but it does concern me to hear that this has happened and that she's not got a response from the party. Obviously, complaints should be investigated.
It's the true face of Labour, though, seriously. The second that you deviate from the party line, you get a load of abuse and you get hounded out. And, of course, the worst thing possible would be to offend, in this case, the Asian community.
No, I don't think it's the true face of Labour that they don't take abuse seriously. I would want to know more about the details of this complaint before making a decision.
Yeah, but the problem, Ellie's right, of course, that the Asian community disproportionately provide cab drivers. But from what I can gather, correct me if I'm wrong, this young councillor didn't say, I want the CCTV in the cars because these people are Asians.
No, she didn't.
That would be racist.
Yes.
That would be racist. She said, I want them there because they're Asian. She just wants them there for security reasons. It's irrelevant that they're Asians or not.
Oh, let's just actually, I believe now that we might be able to say a quick hello to the Deputy Mayor of Peterborough Council and the leader of the Conservative group, Councillor Wayne Fitzgerald. Great to see you. Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
So what do you make of this? What's the noise been like on the council? I appreciate it's a different party, but you know, the idea that you've got a young girl here, was the youngest councillor, who appears to have been hounded out of post for saying something that many people think is common sense.
This goes back quite some while, Patrick, in terms of 10, 15 years ago, when I tried to introduce it then, and taxi drivers blocked the roads. That's how much they were against it. And it seems again that the Pakistani taxi driver, which the majority are in Peterborough, it's not racist, it's fact, that are against this. But look, I was in a cab the other night, and a taxi driver was telling me about losing his license because somebody had made an allegation, which is good reason for everybody, drivers and the public, to have protection so that they can prove what did or did not happen. It's a good thing, and the Conservatives here in Peterborough supported it, but it was voted down.
OK, do you think as though that this is kind of the true face of your opposition there? I mean, what's the Conservative view on this? I mean, it just seemed to be as though they're kind of playing into your hands quite a lot here.
They are, and if you ask me, do I relish in the fact that Labour are in complete disarray in Peterborough, and we spanked them last week, with Paul Bristow winning every single ward, in Peterborough in the mayoral election. So they are on the retreat. This particular young lady, she's a very nice young lady. I've spoken to her a few times, and it's always disappointing when you hear of that behaviour, regardless of political party.
Yeah, we are out of time now. Thank you very much. I know that you were ready to go earlier, but we had a slight connection problem. But I hope to talk to you again very soon. So all the best, Wayne. It's Wayne Fitzgerald there, who's the leader of the Conservative group on the council. I just think it's really bad, this, that you end up with a young girl who wants to go into politics and has got into politics and won an election, which is no mean feat at all. You know, stuck her head above the parapet, and then, by the sounds of things, the second that she deviates from the party line, as it were, absolutely hounded, and the recipient of, as she says anyway, anti-Semitic abuse. I mean, it puts you off, surely, wanting to go into politics. And again, I don't know whether or not there's the aspect that she was a young girl in all of this makes her an easier target to be bullied. I don't know. But GBNews contacted Peterborough Council's Labour group. We didn't hear back. However, a Labour Party spokesman said all complaints are assessed thoroughly in line with the Labour Party's rules and procedures. So that clears that up then. So coming up at 10 p.m.
MashaAllah.
وقفتي المختار هيبة جسدها بكليبة لهالبيت.
I've got some absolutely staggering footage for you from the people smugglers themselves. They are slashing their prices as thousands of migrants gather in Calais to make that crossing to Britain. Can anyone stop the small boat armada? But first... So a group of Tory MPs think that the best way to respond to getting a complete hammering at the local elections is to write a letter to the Prime Minister calling on him to recognise Palestine as a state. OK, well done. That's next.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
From a PETA point of view, I see you guys are in the newspapers today, PETA, and it's about the definition of a rat. Have you seen this story?
Yeah, I have indeed. And, you know, rats are individuals. And of course, we want everyone to respect all animals. But one point I would like to raise is that, you know, we mention animals who are going extinct. There are over 2,000 species right now that are on the endangered list.
Well, rats
and there are
won't be one
thousands
of them.
more. Well, you know, rats are important as well, but we're here to talk about, you know, the dire wolves. And it's important to point out that we need to think about what's going to happen to these animals once they're released back into the wild, because this is really complicated.
Yes,
and we need
yes.
to remember that humans don't have a good track record of our
No.
treatment of wolves. Thousands are being culled as we speak due to perceived overpopulation problems. So why are scientists trying to bring back more of these animals when their cousins are being blasted out of their homes? It doesn't make sense, and we need
No, I
to
get
focus our
that,
efforts
Lucy,
on
I get
protecting
that.
animals that are already here.
I get that. Just to say, a rat, according to the Cambridge Dictionary, is a small rodent. The noun can mean also an unpleasant person who deceives others or is not loyal. And you guys think that's unfair to rats, and you want it redesignated and redescribed. And I don't know if James Cagney would appreciate with you, you know, because I think when he was going, "You dirty rat, you dirty rat," I don't think that he was really wanting anybody kind or nice coming to him or whatever, but that's historic film.
Well, look, this is a completely friendly request, and we want to encourage everyone to respect all animals. Rats are lovely creatures, they're intelligent, and they're actually very clean. So, you know, this was a friendly request to the Oxford Dictionary, just to right a simple wrong.
OK.
GB News, the People's Channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Welcome back. Coming up, can any party stop the small boat armada? I've got some exclusive footage for you of the people smugglers themselves. But first, more than a dozen senior Conservative MPs and peers have broken party ranks and written to the Prime Minister, the Labour Prime Minister, calling for the UK to immediately recognise Palestine as a state. 7 MPs and 6 members of the House of Lords have signed the letter urging Sir Keir Starmer to defy the Israeli government and give formal recognition to Palestine ahead of key UN talks next month. So the letter was organised by former Minister Kit Malthouse, claims that recognising Palestine would affirm our nation's commitment to upholding the principles of justice, self-determination and equal rights. It would be a necessary step to reinforce international law and diplomacy. It comes just days after the Conservative Party were absolutely battered at the local elections, losing control of all the councils that they held at the election. But joining me now is National Jewish Assembly trustee Gary Mond. Gary, for the life of me, I cannot understand what these Conservatives are playing at. Forgive me, I don't think it's going to play that well with the base, is it?
Yes, but this entire development is actually comes as no surprise. We're seeing the return of the Arabists into the Conservative Party. And there was a seminal event that took place last July when Sir Alan Duncan was accused of anti-Semitism because he had called the advisory board of the Conservative Friends of Israel a group that acted for a foreign power, which is a fundamentally anti-Semitic trope. The Conservative Party dismissed the allegations against him. And ever since then, it's been downhill. Yes, I know that the Tory party leader and that the Shadow Foreign Secretary are both pro-Israel, but I fear that the pro-Israel tendencies of the Conservative Party are going very much into retreat in the past year.
I'm sorry, but it's to me, it just seems monumentally thick, right? You've got these people who got served up at the last election, got completely turfed out. The major threat now is clearly reform to the Conservatives. They are going backwards rapidly. And their response to that is to go more pro-Palestine. I just don't get it, Gary.
It's actually their honest beliefs, these 13 individuals, and I'm afraid there are many more like them in the Conservative Party. They are actually fundamentally anti-Israel, and they have always been anti-Israel. It's not new. And they're using this as an opportunity really to try to show that they're on the side of the Islamists in this country, and they want to see a Palestinian state when there really already is a Palestinian state.
Is that what you think it is, Gary? Is that what you think it is? Do you think now that they only know one thing? So in the same way that we've spent years trying to appease all of the woke diversity mob, that now the only thing they know is to go, right, gosh, well, we better try to do everything we can to appease the pro-Palestine brigade?
I think that that's largely correct. I think that there is a tendency to appease what they see as a powerful group and growing in power. They're particularly thinking of the size of the Muslim population who they believe will be on their side. And that's why they're doing what they're doing. The fact that it's completely madness to think of recognizing a Palestinian state right now, it's just a way of appeasing Hamas, frankly, and appeasing all the other Islamic militant groups to seek to recognize a Palestinian state. It's crazy.
And so, tell you what they've done here is that they've yet again just handed the key to Downing Street to Nigel Farage. I mean, we had Keir Starmer yesterday with at least the comms around this trade deal with India, which allowed it all to get out there that it looked as though foreign nationals were getting a tax break while British workers were being hammered with tax. You know, you've now got this thing with the Conservatives where it looks as though a decent chunk of that Conservative Party appears to be openly pro-Palestine and want to recognise it as a state. I mean, goodness gracious me, if Nigel Farage went missing for the next 3 or so years, he could possibly still win at this rate. But just explain to me, why is it such a bad thing? Because a lot of people will be looking at this letter and thinking, well, hang on a minute, yeah, why don't we just recognise Palestine as a state? Why don't we just do it? I mean, they say that it would comply with international law.
Well, that is entirely debatable. Recognising Palestine as a state in the Judea and Samaria and in Gaza would essentially encourage them to build up their army and to start threatening Israel's Ben Gurion airport almost multiple times a day. It would put Israel into tremendous danger if there was a Palestinian state. We've also got a situation where 700,000 Jews are living in Judea and Samaria. That number is growing and growing quite fast, and they have every right to be there. These are the historic lands of Judea and Samaria, and they've been Jewish for thousands of years. They have every right to be there. And the idea of giving the Arabs yet another state is absolutely for the birds.
Yeah, I mean, also, can I just say, very polite as people like Kit Miles, this will translate into precisely 0 votes at the next election. Doing this is totally futile and pointless. But Gary, thank you very much. Gary Mon there, who is the National Jewish Assembly trustee. Well, I've got a lot coming your way. You are going to want to see this. I've got videos of the human traffickers themselves. They're slashing their prices as thousands of migrants gather in Calais to make that crossing to Britain. Well, I'm going to be giving you some cold, hard facts and, frankly, asking, can any political party stop the invasion of Britain? All of that and much, much more after you find out what the weather's doing near you.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed home battery storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Over the coming days, high pressure clings on, leaving lots of pleasant weather, feeling warm in the sunshine. That's away from eastern coasts, though, always a bit cooler here. That's all thanks to high pressure dragging in a northeasterly flow across these areas, so bringing more of a breeze, more cloud, making things feel a little bit chillier. Always warmest in the west. And as we head through this evening, we're once again going to see more cloud drifting into the east. This cloud thick enough to produce some showers at times, but on the whole, across much of the country, it should remain largely dry. Plenty of clear skies across Scotland and Northern Ireland, so even a touch of frost by the time we reach the morning. So it is going to be a chilly start as we head into Thursday morning. Largely dry, though, across Scotland, though plenty of cloud across the very far north. This could be thick enough to produce some showers, and it may just be a little bit breezy across northeastern coasts. But across Northern Ireland, once again, largely dry and bright, but still a few showers feeding into northeast England. Elsewhere across the southeast too, can't rule out some showers here, but across the large majority of England and Wales, it should be a largely dry and fine start to the day. And that's pretty much the setup through the course of Thursday. We'll see a mix of cloud, some brighter spells, still the occasional shower across the far north of England, and a little bit breezy at times too across the very far southeast. But by the afternoon, some sunshine poking through that cloud. And once again, it's western areas that sees the best of the temperatures, highs of around 19 degrees, but only just about clipping into the mid-teens across the east. For Friday, it's likely we'll see some mist and fog to start. Once again, a chilly start to the day, but brightening up nicely through the course of the day, seeing plenty of sunshine, just some thicker clouds starting to creep into the northwest. Once again, this may produce the odd light shower, but otherwise it should be largely dry and fine, and staying that way into the weekend, temperatures creeping up into the mid-20s by the time we reach Sunday. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed home battery storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could be the next big winner on the road in this brand new Alnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. Imagine the fun you could have in this luxurious home from home worth over £67,000. We'll also give you £5,000 in tax-free cash to make your next getaway a great one. And it could be all yours. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, It happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30am.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight. Exclusive info that reveals it's never been cheaper or easier to break into Britain. And you are not going to want to miss this. Yeah, tensions between Pakistanis and Indians here in Britain, plus...
Could this lead to a conviction and bring to an end one of the world's biggest unsolved crimes?
Get ready for bombshell new Maddie McCann evidence. Has the case finally been solved? And...
Been waiting for hours to see whether that smoke would be white or black. And it is black, which means it's an inconclusive vote.
So, black smoke, bad news for David Lammy, of course. You know, gosh, how will he recover from that? But it does mean no new Pope tonight. I'll be having a look at all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages with the director of the Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood. We, of course, have senior reporter at Guido Fawkes, Ellie Wheatley, and the political commentator, Eve McQuillan. Oh, and can anyone tell me what's going on here?
Put your hands up in the air. This is the rhythm of the night.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Shocking exclusive footage of the invasion of Britain next.
Patrick, thank you. The top stories. The wait for a new pope goes on after black smoke rose from the Sistine Chapel following the first secret vote as the conclave began. A group of 133 cardinal electors began their behind-closed-door meeting this afternoon. It's expected that voting will resume tomorrow, and up to 4 rounds of voting can take place each day, 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. A new pope requires a 2/3 majority in the voting, and white smoke will be emitted from the chimney of the Sistine Chapel to confirm a pontiff has been chosen. In other news, Pakistan has vowed revenge after dozens were killed in Indian missile strikes last night. Pakistan described the attacks as an act of war and responded with shelling on the Indian side of the line of control. India says it launched the strikes last night on 9 sites in Pakistan and Pakistan-administered Kashmir. Pakistan, though, says 6 locations were attacked, and Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif says 5 Indian jets were down. That hasn't been officially confirmed. At least 26 people have been killed and 46 injured by airstrikes and firing along the line of control. The Indian Defence Ministry said it targeted terrorist infrastructure, but Pakistan's Defence Minister said all areas hit were civilian places. The UK Foreign Office has updated travel advice urging against all travel to parts of India and Pakistan. Criminals in England and Wales who refuse to attend their sentencing hearings could soon face up to 2 extra years in prison under a new bill. According to the victims' families, the proposed bill would give judges greater powers to punish those who are absent, ensuring offenders can no longer opt out of justice. Supporters of that bill say it marks a significant step towards greater accountability in the justice system. Elsewhere, 18-year-olds will be allowed to drive trains amid concerns over driver shortages. The Department for Transport says the minimum age to take on the role in Britain is to be lowered from 20 to 18. Rail services are frequently disrupted because several operators rely on drivers voluntarily working extra shifts to run timetabled services. It's understood 87% of cancellations made the night before a service is scheduled to run are caused by driver shortages. Liam Payne left behind a fortune worth £24.3 million and died without a will, court documents show. The singer, who was 31, died in October last year after falling from a hotel balcony in Argentina. Documents show Cheryl, his former partner and mother of his son Bear, is an administrator for his estate. This means she'll be legally responsible for his money, property and possessions. And finally, some breaking news in sport. Arsenal have been knocked out of the Champions League semi-finals by Paris Saint-Germain after losing 3-1 on aggregate. PSG are to face Inter Milan in the final. And those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, more from me in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
I can reveal that it has never been cheaper or easier to break into Britain. People smugglers have reduced their fees to just £1,000. It used to be about £8,000. This is because thousands of illegal immigrants are queuing up currently to cross the channel. Now, we can show you exclusive footage from someone we believe to be a people smuggler. Here he is, showing off his boat. And here he is showing what appears to be an illegal migrant on his way to Calais, scrapping with French authorities. And then, of course, the French authorities appear to do nothing and they get on the boats. But what they do as part of additional adverts to people who have not yet made it onto the water is they actually seem to put trackers onto some of these boats. So, for example, we can track Hussein's progress from Calais to Dover. Yes, well done, Hussein. A French source told us this year is aiming to be a record year for small boat crossings. The smugglers are gearing up by charging just £1,000, and it shows how confident they are. Well, today, the other big news was this. Accommodation for asylum seekers is expected to cost more than £15 billion. That is 3 times the amount the Home Office originally estimated. The Conservative government signed contracts in 2019 that were due to pay £4.5 billion of taxpayers' money to 3 companies over a decade. However, a report by the National Audit Office, the government spending watchdog, says that that number is now estimated to be £15.3 billion over that 10-year period instead. It's astonishing, isn't it? Who just check back in with Hussein? Hussein's on his way to one of those hotels, isn't he? Labour's plans aren't working. Today, the Tories have unveiled their deportation bill. Get ready for this. Deport all foreign criminals, mandatory scientific age testing, etc., etc. I mean, Reform say that they will turn the boats back. The question I want to ask now is, can anyone stop the invasion of Britain? Let's get the thoughts of my panel. We've got the Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, Senior Reporter at Guido Fawkes, Ellie Wheatley, and, of course, the political commentator, Eve McQuillan. Mark, can anyone stop the invasion of Britain?
Yeah, how's the smashing the gangs going, do you think? I mean, I was never very confident that they were going to smash the gangs. But if you'd even just taken a small lump out of them, you'd expect prices to go up, not down.
Yeah.
Right? If you were able to close down some, I don't know, cocaine smuggling operations, you'd expect the price of cocaine to go up. The fact that it's falling, I think, means that whatever strategy the Labour government are implementing is failing rapidly. Look, £1,000, I mean, it's not exactly Ryanair prices, is it? But it's getting there.
But I suppose for £1,000 you get a house, you get your bills paid for.
It's even better than the GBNews great giveaway. But here's the problem that we've covered this many times on your show, Patrick. If the pull factor is that great, then I don't think you can stop the demand. If you are offering hotel accommodation, a very soft asylum system, a likelihood that you will stay or win your application or be able to disappear into the wider community, if those are your odds, you're probably going to pay £1,000 or more to risk it. So we've got to stop the magnet at this end. That's what's really pulling them in, at least as much as Hussein and his boats.
I mean, those prices, like we said before, and Mark White, our Home and Security Editor, has been on numerous times. They always used to be about, 5, 6, 7, 8 grand, right? And to just slash them to £1,000 now because there's so many people queuing up, that tells you everything you need to know about the invasion of Britain.
Yeah, I mean, totally. I can't say I'm surprised. I mean, immigration wasn't even one of Starmer's 5 milestones for change in December, so it's not. I mean, they claim it's a priority, and the government's been boasting about the fact that since taking office, they claimed that enforced returns have gone up by 24%. That's nothing when this year so far there's been an increase in small channel migrants by 40%, so it doesn't even make a dent. So I think the only thing to do here is to have a proper deterrent and have to have proactive policies rather than reactive policies. The Rwanda scheme, obviously, it was botched and it wasted millions of taxpayers' money, but even the threat made a difference. Do you remember the then Irish Deputy Prime Minister?
Ireland,
They all went to Ireland. 80% of their migrants were coming from Northern Ireland into the Republic. So it does show that a deterrent is what's needed.
Eve, I'll bring you in. I mean, this is pretty catastrophic news for Starmer. The price drop there, the thousands of people queuing up, and they're using TikTok there to just even boast about the fact that they've got all these boats and they're about to put a load of people on them. I mean, they don't care about him, do they? Really?
I mean, I think what's happening is there are obviously desperate people willing to cross the channel, and that should concern us because of the safety aspects. But we do need to remember that when those people arrive, the majority of them eventually are granted asylum. What we have at the moment with the hotels is a ridiculous system where we are so slow at making those decisions that we're leaving people in hotels for a long while, which people don't.
Labour view, genuinely.
What? The Labour view?
The pity should be with the people making the journey across the Channel, that actually most of them are genuine asylum seekers and that we need to make their lives a bit easier when they get it. Do you think that is the general view in the Labour Party?
I think there are mixed views in the Labour Party. I think there's a view in the Labour Party that they need to get the asylum system actually working and making decisions quickly, so genuine refugees who are fleeing conflict can have fair decisions made. And then they want to get a grip on economic migration so that we can see positive impacts on our labour market.
I'm no fan of President Macron, but there's no way you're fleeing Calais because you're being persecuted. None at all. The asylum claim for anyone who is coming in on a small boat from Calais should be turned down. Calais is safe harbour and safe haven. There should be an automatic refusal to even entertain an asylum application. They're already in a safe country, France. And until we start making those sort of black and white decisions, this is just going to continue.
Let's whiz on to the second aspect to this whole story was the whopping great big overspend on migrant hotels that, frankly, we all knew was happening, but now we have confirmation. So it's about £4 million a day, and that equates, apparently, my maths is not great, I'm only going off what I've been told here, about £15.3 billion over the course of about 10 years, right? Which is, I think, 3 times more than the government thought that it was going to be. Well, we cannot go on like this, can we? When people are being told to scrimp and save, when it looks like they might be coming after your ISAs, they're coming after the pensioners' winter fuel payments, they're coming after all sorts. Yeah, but we've got £15.3 billion.
And now, by the way, the Home Office is hiring 300 asylum decision-makers on 31 grand a year. And the key skills that they must have is to be emotionally resilient and inquisitive. 300, that's a lot. I mean, it does show...
But that means you have to get moving and get the system working. We shouldn't have backlogs where we're wasting money housing people we shouldn't be housing. We should be looking, what are our laws, who do we want to help, and make the system work so we help the people we want to help.
The backlog, in large part, is caused by our legal process. That your endless rights of appeal under things like Article 8 of the ECHR and the Human Rights Act. Look, I think we should give asylum seekers a fair hearing, but I think we should make a decision within hours or days not within 18 months. And I don't think we should have a legal system that allows almost limitless appeals and, frankly, a success rate amongst asylum applications which is eye-wateringly and implausibly high. You're right, most of them get asylum status. That, to my mind, means that something's wrong in the system. It should be a low percentage, not a high one.
Do you not find it quite personally offensive when you look at the way that those human traffickers there are going about it? So they're advertising a whopping great big price drop. They're filming their clients, and I suppose they are clients really, on a bus kicking off with French authorities, and they're tracking Hussein on a phone and using it to advertise for it. Do you not find that quite offensive? Like, we are talking about them breaking into Britain, aren't we?
I find it disgusting that people are profiting from this system, but I think the solution is for the British government to assess people's claims fairly, do an agreement with the French authorities to assess people's claims in Calais, and then have a system where you kill that business model because people are not needing to arrive in the UK.
This is the thing. Why aren't they doing it? You know, they made the big thing about smash the gangs, smash the gangs, smash the gangs, and we're looking at this now, this situation. I honestly think if you ask most people in Britain now, would you turn the boats back? They'd say yes. Ali?
Yeah, well, I mean, look at how Reform's surging in the polls and how well they did in the locals. Of course, most people in Britain are going, this is ridiculous. I mean, headline after headline, various illegal criminals not being able to be deported because, as you say, the ECHR rulings, which often they are ridiculous cases made by judges, decided by judges. And so this is why we see the rise in Reform, because they also have a clean slate. They haven't got the Tory record of 14 years of mismanagement. They aren't doing as poorly as Labour, obviously, because they're not in government. I mean, I understand that they're working on proper policies on immigration at the moment in the next coming weeks and months, but we'll see if any of them's actually
I just think tomorrow we're going to have some. So I know people hate this word, but we're going to have some very poor optics, right? Because we've got VE Day, OK, and we've got the last, sadly, of our greatest generation and everything they did during the war, and that of course includes things like D-Day. And on that day, we are almost inevitably going to have several hundred young blokes come across the channel in boats, rock up on the south coast and make a life here at the taxpayers' expense. And I just think that's going to stick in the craw a bit tomorrow more than most days.
Yeah, the juxtaposition of that is quite extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, it's not Britannia rules the waves anymore. Far from it.
No,
we can't remotely defend. We use the waves to get to Britannia, and we won't. And have a free hotel room for 18 months when you get here. I mean, it's hardly surprising, is it? I wonder whether one change we could make is this. I think we'd have to opt out of a little bit of the refugee convention to do this, but that we say to people, if you want to apply for asylum status, your feet don't need to be on British land. You do it through the embassy of the country that you're in. So if you are in, there'll be a few exceptions, war-torn areas, but if you're in, I don't know, Venezuela, that's fine. You go to the British embassy in Venezuela, you do not move. We will assess your asylum application from where you are. Do not come to Dover. If you are coming to Dover to put in an asylum application, we're going to assume you're swinging the lead.
OK. What would you make of that? I mean, the overall question here initially was, can anyone stop the invasion of Britain? I mean, it doesn't look like Starmer's going to do it. Are you not afraid, as a Labour supporter, presumably a Labour member as well?
I am a Labour member, yes.
Labour member. Are you not afraid of a Reform government? I mean, that's going to happen if this keeps going on.
I think the government needs to get this right, but I do think they are working on it. And actually, I think I agree with you. That sounds an awful lot like legal and safe routes, which I think is the solution to this for people who need it. That's what needs to happen, and that will smash these gangs, and it will give us some control over it.
It's a good point, though. Just finally on this, but, for quite a long time, including now, actually, there is a resistance to this notion of safe and legal route. And I thought that maybe that was because people thought that would encourage more people to go and apply. But we're now in a very different situation, aren't we? Where these people are just coming anyway. It's happening. We've got apparently tens of thousands of them in France waiting to make the journey. What should we just be having safe and legal routes, do you think, Ali, or not?
Yeah, I think that's a good point from Mark, is actually if you are in war-torn countries, or you are facing, danger in your own country, then of course you absolutely should be able to come to the UK. We should provide these sort of people with safe haven, but not economic migrants, which many of these people on these boats are. And as you say, a lot of them are men. not very many women and young children. And to me, that suggests that they are mostly economic migrants.
And they're fleeing France, for crying out loud.
Yeah, and I do think there are serious question marks to be had about, well, OK, if you are fleeing war, why have you left your wife and kid? But anyway, there we go. Right, look, loads more coming your way, including, of course, the Great British Giveaway. Here's your chance to win our biggest prize yet. Here's how.
Don't miss out on a prize package worth over £72,000, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. You could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. Plus, a further £5,000 in tax-free cash will make sure your next adventure makes memories to last a lifetime. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Coming up, all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages, and there's some breaking news on the Telegraph tonight. The cost of housing migrants has tripled. We are now shelling out billions. I'll reveal all shortly. What's wrong with this as well?
Put your hands up in the air. This is the rhythm of the night.
I'll reveal all very soon, but first, bombshell new evidence suggests that Madeline McCann is dead. So, why are taxpayers still forking out millions to investigate her death? We've got some new evidence coming your way in just a second. Stay tuned.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Amazing. I'm so pleased for him, and I think everybody in Northern Ireland. He did defeat an Englishman in the playoff.
He did.
Which is,
Justin Rose.
Yeah.
See, Justin Rose, not many people are going to talk about Justin Rose, well, apart from us.
Yes.
But Justin Rose, it talk about, the bridesmaid and the bride, and it's been that with Rory. He's been the runner-up in the Masters twice. And 44 years old, and to do what he did and get a round of 66 was incredible. But Rory, see, people have written Rory off, and I've got to admit, even a couple of years ago, and I'm thinking, this is not going to happen for Rory, because it's this ultimate Grand Slam. Now, I think in golf, the Grand Slam is probably harder to win than any other sport, tennis, anything else. Because if you just look at the list, so this is basically to win the PGA, the American PGA, the US Open, the Open here, and the Masters. So this is to win the big 4 throughout your career. And only Gene Sarazen in 35, Ben Hogan in 1953, Gary Player in 1965, the legendary Jack Nicklaus in 66, and Tiger Woods in 2000. They're the only people to have done it. And if you think of all the great golfers over the years, nobody, apart from them, have managed it. And now Rory's managed it, and that makes him the greatest European golfer there has ever been.
Well, there's emotion you see there. I mean, you see what you so wants. I mean,
absolutely. I mean, he broke down in tears at the end, and it's not surprising because this is the thing. And it's 2011 was the last time he won a major. So at the time when he was much younger, they were coming left, right, and centre, and you think this kid's going to do everything. And then he was winning tournaments, but not those majors. And it was the Masters. That was the one he wanted. Well, give him a bus tour. Get the open top bus out. Get him around. And,
he will.
He'll deserve it. I mean, absolute hero.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys. Now, look, very shortly I've got all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages, but first, a bombshell new documentary has shed new light on the Maddie McCann investigation.
Continue to pray for Madeline. She's lovely.
Tonight, we reveal how the Sun newspaper has obtained new evidence from secret police files. Could this lead to a conviction and bring to an end one of the world's biggest unsolved crimes?
Well, that new evidence is this. A hard drive found at an abandoned factory, which was bought by the prime suspect in the investigation, Christian Bruckner, apparently contains evidence that Maddie is dead.
Wallet containing 6 USB sticks and 2 memory cards. As police scoured the compound, they uncovered more of Bruckner's belongings.
It's hugely important circumstantial evidence.
German prosecutors believe that Christian Bruckner killed the 3-year-old after she vanished during a family holiday in 2007. UK police have continued to assist the investigation, with Scotland Yard receiving another £100,000 in funding last month. The Met Police have received more than £13 million from the government since launching Operation Grange in 2011. Well, I'm going to discuss this with my panel. Let's deal with first things first. It is a big development, Mark, that it appears anyway that according to German police, they have evidence that Maddie McCann is dead.
Very sad, completely unsurprising, right? I mean, this happened 18 years ago. That, you know, you would have thought it was a 1,000,000 to 1 shot that she would still be alive. I guess the evidence proves it, but I'd be surprised if anyone's surprised, basically. I mean, it's sad, it's tragic. This case caught the public imagination. I'm not a parent myself, but I can totally understand why all parents thought, oh, my God, you know, I sometimes leave my kids sleeping and, you know, walk away 100 yards and have a drink or a bite to eat. I can totally understand why it chilled all parents, but it's a tragedy. We may never solve it. It's an unsurprising development, however, in my view.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to say that the Germans do think they've solved it. From what I can gather, they think that Christian Bruckner killed Maddie McCann, and they say that they have got evidence to suggest that on one of these hard drives or USB...
Put him on trial, then. I mean, that's the problem. There's huge pressure to close this particular case, even if it can't be closed, to find a solution.
But one of the things that... And look, whilst as tragic as this is, and it is obviously incredibly tragic, a lot of people will probably be watching and listening to this now and thinking, if the Germans have had this evidence for a number of years, why have we been continuing to fund in large sums of money this search for Maddie? This thing, you know, £100,000 funding last month alone. Apparently, Scotland Yard so far more than 13 million quid from the government since launching Operation Grange in 2011. I mean this with absolute respect. You know, do you think it's maybe time that we did stop funding this now?
Well, there must have been a reason why the Germans didn't release this evidence until recently. But I remember I was about 7 years old, so similar age to Maddie, actually, and my younger sister was the same age as her, when this happened. And my parents being absolutely terrified. And all across Europe, you'd see her face in cafe windows. And it did absolutely shock parents across Europe and across the world. And, you know, because this resort was supposedly safe, and I think we were discussing earlier, they got a lot of coverage because they are a middle-class family.
Yeah.
And it is sad because children get missing, you know, go missing all the time. But this particularly high-profile case brought children going missing to parents' attention.
But the funding shouldn't be based on how high-profile a case is, right?
No, of course not. But it is the natural way of things.
There was, however, this concern with this case case that this was part of a trade in children, this really sinister concern that this is part of a larger ring. So that obviously needs to be investigated to stop this happening to another child. So that is a good use of public money to stop that happening. It's when it's clear it's one individual, then perhaps it's not a good use of money. But obviously horrific news today. A beautiful little girl, horrible story.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, again, this is something that people have spoken about in the past. When it comes to the parents, OK? Now, their story is that they were having tapas and they left Maddie and the twins, and other people there also left their children in their different villas and apartments, etc. And I think at that particular time, that was not an uncommon thing to do. A lot of people didn't do that, by the way. My parents certainly didn't do that, but a lot of people did. I do think that maybe they didn't get as much stick for that as they possibly could have done because they were two middle-class doctors.
Yeah, that might be right.
And white, maybe, as well. I'm not trying to play the race card, but I do think that might have had a bit to do.
And attractive and articulate and good on television. You know, all of those are reasons why this story took off and went supernova. I guess, you know, if you were to be completely cool and logical about it, you would say, you know, should you really leave your kids alone in a room like that? But the reason the story, you know, takes light is that it seems like a very, very, very small risk that you're running in a resort like that, that's safe and secure. Apparently, you're running a tiny, 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 tiny risk. And it turns out that the consequences are absolutely horrific. That's, you know, that's why it chills everybody to the bone.
And actually, as well, look, hey, that said, all of that being said, I think in light of the fact that this documentary has just gone out, it was a Sun investigation that went out on Channel 4, and the latest line out of it is, and it is quite bombshell, really, that the German police appear to be absolutely convinced that they have evidence that Madeline McCann is dead, then, you know, that must be absolutely terrible for the parents. I imagine they've been aware of this for a little while. I think that they probably were kept informed with that. It probably won't be new information to them, but that will be absolutely terrible nonetheless. But yes, well, look, hey, that's the latest news in relation to the Madeline McCann case there. There's a new documentary that suggests that the German police believe that they have evidence that she's now died. A Home Office spokesperson said the ongoing police investigation into the disappearance of Madeline McCann, known as Operation Grange, is an operational matter for the Metropolitan Police Service. Ministers have approved a request to provide up to £108,000 in this year that we're in now. In line with our special grant processes, funding for Operation Grange is approved on an annual basis. Well, look, as we were saying, that there will clearly now be question marks as to whether or not that needs to continue, that funding. Anyway, coming up, I do have all of the very first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. I'll bring you all of the details. Oh, and can you tell me, please, in slightly lighter news, it must be said, what on earth is wrong with this?
Put your hands up in the air. This is the rhythm of the night.
Everything's wrong with it. That's what's wrong. Everything's wrong with it. Completely. Stay tuned.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
An unsettled spell across parts of Europe, particularly across the Alps and southeastern Europe, where they're going to experience heavy showers and thunderstorms over the next few days. An area of low pressure could drag in some showers later across Madeira and Tenerife. Plenty of showers across Portugal and Spain, but it's really across the Alps, southeastern parts of Europe, where these showers are going to be particularly heavy and possibly thundery. Now, it should be largely dry across Greece and largely dry for all from Sunday, with temperatures in the low 20s, so feeling pleasant in the sunshine.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Over the coming days, high pressure clings on, leaving lots of pleasant weather, feeling warm in the sunshine. That's away from eastern coasts, though, always a bit cooler here. That's all thanks to high pressure dragging in a northeasterly flow across these areas, so bringing more of a breeze, more cloud, making things feel a little bit chillier. Always warmest in the west. And as we head through this evening, we're once again going to see more cloud drifting into the east. This cloud thick enough to produce some showers at times, but on the whole, across much of the country, it should remain largely dry. Plenty of clear skies across Scotland and Northern Ireland, so even a touch of frost by the time we reach the morning. So it is going to be a chilly start as we head into Thursday morning. Largely dry, though, across Scotland, though plenty of cloud across the very far north. This could be thick enough to produce some showers, and it may just be a little bit breezy across northeastern coasts. But across Northern Ireland, once again, largely dry and bright, but still a few showers feeding into northeast England. Elsewhere across the southeast too, can't rule out some showers here, but across the large majority of England and Wales, it should be a largely dry and fine start to the day. And that's pretty much the setup through the course of Thursday. We'll see a mix of cloud, some brighter spells, still the occasional shower across the far north of England, and a little bit breezy at times too across the very far southeast. But by the afternoon, some sunshine poking through that cloud. And once again, it's western areas that sees the best of the temperatures, highs of around 19 degrees, but only just about clipping into the mid-teens across the east. For Friday, it's likely we'll see some mist and fog to start. Once again, a chilly start to the day, but brightening up nicely through the course of the day, seeing plenty of sunshine, just some thicker clouds starting to creep into the northwest. Once again, this may produce the odd light shower, but otherwise it should be largely dry and fine, and staying that way into the weekend, temperatures creeping up into the mid-20s by the time we reach Sunday. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight, only on GB News. It's the first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages. Let's start with the Daily Telegraph. They've gone with £4 million a day, the true cost of housing migrants. The asylum bill increases threefold as the EU rejects British calls to help smash the small boat gangs. They've got another story here, which is Iranian terror cell in UK, quotes, targeting Israeli embassy. The first line of it is, the Israeli embassy in London was the target of an alleged Iranian terror plot. That is according to the Daily Telegraph. Just sticking with the Telegraph, I would quite like to see what the EU's rejection of this deal is to help Britain smash the gangs. It appears that the Europol in the Netherlands was supposed to be helping to disrupt the flow, and as far as I can tell, it looks as though the European Commission are reluctant to allow the UK access to some of the EU's most precious data on it. So they've said no. Let's go over now to the Daily Express. Their front page. This is a VE Day special. And it goes, homes were ruined, people had died, but there was a sense of hope in our small community. People knew there were better days ahead. And a very emotive picture there of two very young children with the Union Jack. Let's go to the Metro now. Liam leaves £24 million to his son, Bear, 8. This is singer Liam Payne, who left a fortune of almost £30 million after his tragic death in Argentina. He apparently didn't have a will, as far as I understand it, but I think that means that it gets naturally passed to his former spouse, who then looks after it on behalf of their son until presumably he comes of age. The I newspaper. Nuclear warning as Pakistan and India urge to step back from the brink of war. They've also got a picture story there of 80 years of hope for VE Day. And the Mirror go victory and peace in Europe with an old-style cartoon, VE Day 80, as the world remembers the end of World War II in Europe. Veterans call for peace in our war-torn times. There is a juxtaposition here on two of the front pages, and Mark, I'll put this to you, that you got the Mirror there about, calls for peace, and you got the front of the Eye, nuclear warning as Pakistan and India are urged to step back right from the brink of war. You know, have we learned nothing, do we think?
Well, I don't... Look, I mean, you know, human beings will always enter conflicts. You're never going to get a final global peace, in my view, sadly. There'll always be flashpoints. I do think that the VE Day thing is going to be an interesting period of reflection. And my worry, I mean, this is the 80th anniversary, obviously, but my worry is that with each passing year and certainly each passing decade, we sort of erase this from our collective memory and the fabric of our nation. And oftentimes, when we talk about VE Day, we quite rightly say, you know, these people died or risked their lives to give us our freedom. But I think there's another story as well, that it's about national resilience, and the Express picks this up. Homes were ruined, people had died, but there was a sense of hope in our small community. People knew there were better days ahead. In a ghastly, ghastly situation, even though we'd won, large parts of the United Kingdom were rubble, right? Yeah. And I just worry that where our nation is falling backwards a bit isn't so much about freedom, although I do worry that's under attack. It's that there's no resilience. It's that people get offended at the slightest thing. We don't have a stiff upper lip. Keep calm and carry on might be a slogan that appears on the edge of, on the side of coffee mugs, but no longer seems to be our national motto.
And also, I worry, Elliot, when you see some of the latest opinion polls. I think JL Partners did a fascinating one from Grimsby, where actually this idea now, on the Express that better days are ahead. That was the mood after the war. I don't think people in Britain necessarily feel as though better days are ahead now, do they?
Is that what the poll was saying?
No, I mean, it was awful. It was like, one bloke wanted a military coup. Yeah.
Okay. Awful. I know, I mean, it's obviously, as you say, really important to remember VE Day, and I don't think that we will actually forget. I mean, we celebrate Remembrance Day every year, and actually I don't think there are any World War I veterans alive anymore, are there? So, I don't know. I still think that we should keep up the British sense of hope, and there are better days ahead. Listen, we are not in World War III right now, OK? Yeah. So better days are currently ahead compared to 80 years ago, right? So, I don't know. I think it's important to remember this sense of...
I like that. I like that. You've looked at some of the negatives in this country, and you've got, no, I'm not going to lose my optimism.
No, well, you shouldn't be complaining all the time, otherwise it sort of manifests, doesn't it?
There's some truth in that. So my dad was born right after the Second World War, and I think basically he's the first generation of Brits never to be conscripted and forced to fight a war.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So, just think about that.
We don't know we're born, actually, do we, when we think about this?
I think VE Day, the lesson of it is, as well, that optimism is not only was there relief that the war was over, but also that excitement to build the peace and to build a society, a just society. You look at what happened with the Beveridge Report, people thinking that actually, we can have healthcare for all, education for all. It's great. And for me, VE Day is the day that my grandma, who was arrived in this country because she came from Ireland to train as a nurse, ended up working in our NHS. So it has that story as well. It can connect us in ways that we wouldn't expect.
Well, one of the things that has been a real privilege for me over the course of the last week or so has been to speak to so many people who are now 100 or 104 years old. I've got an interview with one that I think I'll probably play out tomorrow on tomorrow's show, probably be fitting. But and it's been a real honour to be able to speak to those people, because you are talking to living history, and I also love the fact that the filter's gone as well at that age. And the things I just love it. I love it. It's a real honour. But anyway, let's just move ourselves on a little bit, because I don't know if you've managed to see this yet, but here it is.
Y'all ready for this?
Unbelievable.
So I'm not making this up. Heinz have launched a fish and chip sauce. They've branded it as the second iteration of tartar sauce. So it's got ingredients such as gherkins, dill, salt, parsley, mustard. One key difference in the two sauces is the new fish and chip sauce is vegan. Yes, the new sauce does not contain any egg yolk like its predecessor, therefore it can be enjoyed by vegans, although not on the dish of its namesake, of course. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's true. You can have fish and chips. The vegans can have fish and chips. Does this not... Actually, that's mad, isn't it? Oh, great, we've got to have a vegan-friendly fish and chip sauce for a dish they can't eat, Mark.
Absolutely mad. I mean, this is incredibly curious. What are they going to market next? French fry sauce, which is kind of tomato-y with a little bit of salt in it. I mean, well, it'd just be tomato sauce. And then say, well, think about it as ketchup 2.0. No, I'll think about it as ketchup. This is just relabeling something, as you say. If there's one product that doesn't need to be vegan, it's fish and chip sauce, isn't it?
Fair. Although it might be tastier, you know. I actually prefer vegan mayonnaise to normal mayonnaise.
Do you?
I'm not a vegan at all.
Wouldn't matter if you were. Wouldn't matter if you were.
It worked to me. But actually, I quite like the fact that it's called fish and chip sauce. It makes sense. I mean, tartar sauce, like, fine, it's a bit of a mouthful.
Why don't they just call it tartar 2.0?
No, because then you get confused. It's a marketing genius, I think.
Big question now. Are you curry sauce or gravy on your chips?
I'm from Yorkshire, so obviously gravy.
Get in! Back of the net. Me too. What about you?
I think...
Like a vegan curry sauce, aren't you? Yeah, vegan curry sauce.
Gravy on everything.
Yes! Good stuff. I've just had in my ear curry sauce and mushy peas. It's one of the topics that divides everyone. Anyway, right, well, I'm glad we've done all the serious news now. Coming up, the rest of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. I'm going to have The Guardian because Labour's got a plan to beat reform, they say. Oh, it'll be interesting to find that out. We'll learn about that together. Stay tuned.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Well, joining us now is the Chief Scout at the Scouting Association, Dwayne Fields. Dwayne, welcome to the programme. Thank you for joining us. You must be delighted at the partnership with the Princess of Wales, and the video is you were in that creation.
Yeah, so good morning, first of all. Yes, I'm absolutely delighted with it. The Princess of Wales has been one of our joint presidents for some time now, and hopefully that will continue. There's no reason to think it won't. And I am delighted. Her platform allows for her to really basically become a megaphone for all the great things we do in Scouting. And there's no denying it. Every single week, we've got 500,000 young people and adult volunteers meeting, and they are learning, building friendships, learning those really important skills for life, having fun, like I said, making friendships. And they're doing all of this voluntarily. And just like I am, so is the Princess of Wales. What you've mentioned there, you know, the being at one with nature, being at peace in nature, I think it's really important for young people to spend time outdoors. We recognize from all the reports, and you yourself have even spoken about it, mental health issues that we have in society nowadays. Now, this isn't the silver bullet, but I think it is part of the solution. The more young people we can get to spend time in our natural spaces, I think the better we'll be, generally speaking, when we're talking about well-being. Now, in regards to what young people do in our scout groups, it could range from cooking to map reading to model making. Whatever skills the volunteer brings are the skills that we utilise in our groups.
I just don't think I would suit the shorts at my age, but that's it. But there's Dwayne.
Look great in the necker.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, everybody. Some more front pages for you now. The Daily Mail, they go with Iranians plotted to attack Israeli embassy in London. They say a gang of suspected Iranian terrorists were planning a deadly attack on the Israeli embassy. That is, they say, according to police. The Sun, Liam's £24 million for Son Best. It's exactly the same headline as the Metro. One Direction singers, riches revealed. It's obviously the sad case of Liam Payne there. The Guardian, this is what we're going to focus in on. It's actually not the story, the main Guardian story. It's down the side here. Farage is the fight of our lives, Labour told. Labour MPs have ramped up pressure on the Treasury, calling for an economic reset. This is... but I'm going to go to you, Mark, because this is quite interesting because some new polling has just landed, and it relates to where Reform are in the polls. So go on.
Well, I mean, this is actually looking at Scotland, right? So traditionally, obviously the SNP have ebbed and flowed a bit, but traditionally Labour heartland. Not necessarily an area you would think Nigel Farage would be particularly popular in. But nevertheless, get this from a poll conducted by Survation between the 2nd and the 5th of May, so immediately after the local elections. In Scotland, you vote for a constituency and then you vote for a party. Reform are now ahead of the Labour Party in Scotland. 29% for the Scottish National Party, 20% for Reform, 18% for the Labour Party. That's Reform up 8, Labour down 4. The Labour Party could be on track to become the 3rd party in Scotland behind Nigel Farage's Reform.
Wow, it's astonishing. And they're doing very well in Wales as well, aren't they, is the thing now. I think they're second behind Plaid Cymru.
And way ahead of Labour there.
Yeah, way ahead of Labour, and I think there's like 1 or 2 points in it there. So, Eve, I mean, this is you, obviously, again, our resident Labourite here for the evening. What do you make of this, then?
I think Labour MPs are saying, listen, it's time to get serious, and the party needs to start delivering for people now. People are feeling the economic pain still, and they want to get things going. And I think Labour MPs have rightly cottoned on to the fantastic insight that if you are our party and people's living standards are improving, they will vote for you again. They need to feel that their living standards are improving, and to do that we need to grow the economy, we need to invest in infrastructure, we need to invest in new housing. And if people feel their life is going to get better, they will vote Labour. If they don't, they won't.
Yeah, well, they obviously, all Labour MPs and the Cabinet have finally caught on to the fact that actually that Farage is a real threat. But how they deal with it is conflicted within the party. So today we have the Labour Growth Group calling for an economic reset, which would probably be about the 20th reset Starmer would have done since becoming Labour leader. But last night it was the Labour Red Wall Group, which about 45 MPs, calling for a rethink of the winter fuel cuts, calling for immediate action on different policies. So we've got factions within the Labour Party all arguing about how to fight off Farage and which side Starmer listens to or the rest of the government listens to, I don't know. We also had Louise Hay, I think, calling for higher taxes to fight off Reform. That was the former Transport Secretary. So I don't know how...
the thing that I think Farage is feeding off a bit, and I'm not trying to make a partisan point here, but this government has a colossal majority. It can do whatever it wants, basically. And this is also true of the last Tory government. In 2019, the Conservatives won a colossal majority. And it's amazed me that both the last Conservative government and this Labour government seem to be completely unambitious. They are just sort of running in a technocratic way the country, just about keeping their hands on the steering wheel. No imagination, no radicalism. It's basically in business as usual. And if you're not very happy with business as usual, Nigel Farage is really tapping into something.
Yeah,
so end business with usual would be my advice to this government, and was my advice to the last one.
Yeah, and again, just to bring 2 front pages together, what you're looking at on your screens on there is The Guardian, which is Farage is the fight of our lives, Labour told. But if you look at the front of the Daily Telegraph again, it's £4 million a day true cost of housing migrants. Asylum bill increases threefold. The EU is apparently not going to help us smash the gangs, etc. Yeah, I mean, Ali, Labour aren't going to be able to fight off Farage while there's still headlines like that on the front of the Daily Telegraph, are there?
And it just keeps getting worse. I remember about 6 months ago the various scandals and Freebie Gate and all that sort of stuff and sleazy sort of going on within Labour and saying, you know what, they'll get to grips with things. In about 6 months, it will calm down. But it just keeps getting worse for them, doesn't it? I mean, I think it's an opening for Farage to just come through.
And Eve, all of this cozying up to the European Union that Starmer's done when Ursula von der Leyen was round, it's all my friend Ursula, my dear friend Ursula, all of that. I mean, he was great friends with Olaf as well until Olaf shuffled off, and he'll be great friends with the next one. You know, but here we are. You know, they've told him to go and swivel, haven't they? Really? I mean, it doesn't look like they want to share information about smashing the gangs with Keir Starmer.
Well, it suggests that we need more diplomacy, you know, and diplomacy is what we need to see, and is the solution to this ultimately is getting that information, is working with the French, because, you know, people say, oh, well, just send them back. Well, you can't if the French don't accept them. So you need to have joint working to deal with this problem.
There's one lesson that Labour should learn from the last Conservative government. If you make promises on immigration and you don't keep them, you're going to get destroyed in the ensuing election.
Yeah.
And Labour promised to close down the migrant hotels. It looks like we're going to spend more on them than ever before.
That's it. And, of course, it remains to be seen, you know, if Reform do win the next general election, you know, again, same promise. They're going to have to stick to it, aren't they? Coming up next, it's Headliners, presented tonight by the wonderful Josh Howie. Josh, what's on your show?
Well, people don't want to go to bed because we have picked out the very best of tomorrow's news. Of course, you have things like From the Front Pages, £4 million a day, the true cost of housing, migrants. But we also have some nuggets from inside the papers, including my favourite one for weeks, maybe. I know the real reason so many straight middle-aged women are becoming lesbians. That's by Julie Bindel, and it's all about hating men. It's fantastic.
Well, I tell you what, I'm glad someone's finally cracked it. I mean, it's been keeping me awake at night, but there we go. Look, thank you to my wonderful panel. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you to you at home who've been watching and listening, and I'm hoping I might have something very special for you for tomorrow night, so watch this space.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Over the coming days, high pressure clings on, leaving lots of pleasant weather, feeling warm in the sunshine. That's away from eastern coasts, though, always a bit cooler here. That's all thanks to high pressure dragging in a northeasterly flow across these areas, so bringing more of a breeze, more cloud, making things feel a little bit chillier. Always warmest in the west. And as we head through this evening, we're once again going to see more cloud drifting into the east. This cloud thick enough to produce some showers at times, but on the whole, across much of the country, it should remain largely dry. Plenty of clear skies across Scotland and Northern Ireland, so even a touch of frost by the time we reach the morning. So it is going to be a chilly start as we head into Thursday morning. Largely dry, though, across Scotland, though plenty of cloud across the very far north. This could be thick enough to produce some showers, and it may just be a little bit breezy across northeastern coasts. But across Northern Ireland, once again, largely dry and bright, but still a few showers feeding into northeast England. Elsewhere across the southeast too, can't rule out some showers here, but across the large majority of England and Wales, it should be a largely dry and fine start to the day. And that's pretty much the setup through the course of Thursday. We'll see a mix of cloud, some brighter spells, still the occasional shower across the far north of England, and a little bit breezy at times too across the very far southeast. But by the afternoon, some sunshine poking through that cloud. And once again, it's western areas that sees the best of the temperatures, highs of around 19 degrees, but only just about clipping into the mid-teens across the east. For Friday, it's likely we'll see some mist and fog to start. Once again, a chilly start to the day, but brightening up nicely through the course of the day, seeing plenty of sunshine, just some thicker clouds starting to creep into the northwest. Once again, this may produce the odd light shower, but otherwise it should be largely dry and fine, and staying that way into the weekend, temperatures creeping up into the mid-20s by the time we reach Sunday. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could be the next big winner on the road in this brand new Alnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. Imagine the fun you could have in this luxurious home from home worth over £67,000. We'll also give you £5,000 in tax-free cash to make your next getaway a great one. And it could be all yours. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians.